Hey, Erin Zen Warrior here. I think it's just started. I'm never sure these things. Erin Zen Warrior here anyway. Um, I'm jumping on today because I'm a bit pissed off. um, I'm a bit disappointed actually. I'm a bit disappointed in um, I think I'm a bit disappointed in human beings, but I guess I'm a bit disappointed in women because I expect a little bit more from us, which is unfair of me. Um, while we're here, what we're talking about today is how women are unfair on their men. And we are going to flip that around and talk about how, to some extent, men are unfair on their women as well, and about why this comes about. But actually, it's to do with my observations. We often talk about why men are unfair on women, and women in particular. And as a woman, I want to talk from the other perspective because I want to honor my fellow struggling man. I want to honor my brothers. I want to honor their energy and the space that they need, and the fact that they're sovereign beings and they don't exist for me. They exist for themselves, and they exist to be part of the community just like I do, as I exist sovereignly as well, and as I expect. So while you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe. We love to have followers. We love to have people that we're actually talking to. And to my regular followers, hi. So it came to me this week that I've been working on quite a few people, men in particular, who've been in very long-term relationships, and some of them very long-term, 20, 40 years. And there's a lot going on with them physically. And what I've noticed so I work holistically as a trainer, physically, spiritually, with meditation, with body work, with movement, with food, with all of this stuff. Just turn the phone away. With all of this stuff, in order to help or try to help people heal. But the truth is I'm not a healer. Healing happens. That's a natural it's a natural process in the body, that when we get out of the way and when we get our traumas out of the way, that we get better. And so I just help become a catalyst for this process. And it's to my great pleasure and my great honor to get to be included. It also can be to my great sadness to see people stuck and feeling trapped. And I guess that's something that should be reflected upon as we look at both sides of this. No one is trapped. No one is trapped in any relationship. No one is stuck there. We choose. And this is really a reflection on the choices that we make and how we respond in anger and lashing out. Often anger we have towards ourselves for making a choice to feel trapped and to feel into the positions that we're in. And I've been in dangerous situations, and I've been in positions of feeling trapped. So I come very much from a position of understanding. I'm not going to say sympathy because I don't want to go back there. I want to stay where I am, and I want to offer a hand out to anyone who wants to step up into the light. So saying all of that, women, you've got to stop beating your men up, because that's what I'm saying when I'm working with these things with people. I'm like, why is this person not getting better? And why do they have all these stomach issues? And why do we have this chronic pain occurring? And why do we have this little injury that it just doesn't seem to open? It doesn't seem to evolve. And I get a lot of really good results with my clients. So when I find something that is sticking, I'm like, what is going on here? And I start asking questions and I start drawing it out. And eventually it comes out. Oh, well, maybe it's something to do with the person that I live with. That's not to say entirely that the man is without blame. To be honest, no one's with blame. What I should say is it's not to be entirely that the man is without responsibility. In fact, we are all absolutely responsible for the lives that we create. If we take this absolute responsibility for the world that is reflected back to us as something that we have reflected out into the world, we have the power to change it. So when life seems miserable and angry all the time, it's because you are miserable and angry. When the man in our life reflects to us something that we are unhappy with, It's because we are unhappy with something. It's because we are in need of something. And it's because we reflected out into the world that unhappiness or that need or that want or that desire. And we begged for something to reflect back to us. And when you're a beggar, you don't get to choose, right? So if I'm in need and I go out needing, I go out begging. And like I said, beggars don't get to choose. So we get back kind of the reflection that we need, the reflection that we went out not free to choose, but poor and miserly. So when you're sitting there going, the man is not the person that I wanted him to be, or the woman is not the person I wanted her to be, you need to check in with what you thought you were entitled to want in the first place. Because people are not here to be healed into the person you need them to be so that you can be whole, right? And then what happens is we go out and we find this person who seems to reflect back to us what we need or want at the time. And then they so desperate to be loved, they probably not being the person that can serve us, not being the right person for us, because we actually went out as a beggar, as a pauper. They at first reflect back to us what we want and what we need, because they need and they want to be loved. And so we get into this enmeshment trauma kind of situation where we're behaving in a certain way to get what we want, and they're behaving in a certain way to get what they want. And then one day what happens is we get tired of doing this because it's inauthentic, and we fall down. And then we get pissed off because the person's not behaving as they presented themselves in the first place. But also we're probably not behaving as we presented ourselves either. And so the facade quickly drops and reality starts to set in, and we go back to the misery and the need and the want and the poverty that we were in when we came to the relationship, because we were poor always. And we never had that wealth within us. And then we get angry and pissed off. Now, what this generally means is we go through a lot with each other, and we fall down and we get back up, and we fall down and we get back up. And after a while of our partner being fallen for a while and us having to drag everything along, and this happens a lot with women, we don't make space for our men to help us as well, right? Because we can do it all. This is very much part of the toxic femininity that's out there. And so we then get upset when we actually really need help, and they have no idea what their place is because we haven't allowed them to have a space. But then also what happens is we also picked someone who didn't perhaps have what we needed, and now we're angry at them because they're not who we thought they were. We're not who we thought we needed, because we didn't really know in the first place what we're attracting. There is no right person for you. You have to become the right person for you. You have to grow. You have to evolve. And when you're pissed and angry constantly at your partner, you have to wake up. So women, stop beating up your man for all the things that he has done in the past that have hurt you. You have to meet him every day fresh. You have to meet him every day new. Because if you don't do that, you'll destroy him. You'll destroy who he actually is, and you'll get in the way of his growth. That's not a decision you should make lightly, and it's certainly not one you should make unconsciously. We have no right to get in the way of someone else discovering their sovereignty. As you become whole, as you start to realize that the world around you is a reflection of everything that you are, and actually you are completely embedded in it, and you're completely connected to it, and everything in the world and the universe around you is actually a part of you, you will realize that as you beat up that man or that woman, that what you're doing is beating up a part of yourself. And the only way to get out of it is to turn that around and to start working on yourself, lifting yourself up, starting to make space for yourself and approach something from a different angle, and then looking at that person and going, if I want to lift myself up, I must lift you up too. I must do my best to create the best environment for you and stop blaming you for the world I created. Now, as I say this, there's a lot of people out there who have been through similar things that I've been through, narcissistic relationships, trauma, abuse. It is not to excuse anyone of shitty behavior. But what happens in those relationships, and I speak from my own experience, is we become complicit in allowing people to mistreat us. We make decisions to stay when maybe we should go. We make decisions to be quiet. And yes, I get that there's manipulation in that. I know that there's manipulation in that. But there's also a lack of strength in us that allows that manipulation. And this is Erin Zen Warrior. So I'm talking here to the people who want to be warriors. I'm talking here to the people who want to step beyond allowing the outside world to impact the inside world. So we become so strong in here that the rest of this is something we witness, and we get to come back to ourselves every day. And we start to build an environment where the people around us get to come back to their selves, where it's impossible for them not to. It's impossible for them not to feel themselves and their shittiness and their greatness and where they're at. It's impossible for them to ignore the calling to step up into the light. If you go wholeheartedly and beautifully and abundantly into something beautiful can happen. But not because you met the right person, but because you are whole and you are able to show and invite someone else to expand. And that's the only way a person will who isn't expanded right now. It's the only way a person becomes is for there to be a wholehearted invitation. If we keep beating each other up, picking on each other for our differing opinions, picking on each other because we didn't take the trash out today, because we drank too much 3 years ago, because once upon a time we did the wrong thing. If we keep coming with the memory of the past, there is no room for a fresh future. So if you want your relationships to be different, if you want your relationship and your own life and how you interrelate with the next person and the next person, the next person, whether it's your friend or your husband or your partner or your girlfriend, whoever it is, your children, you have to come fresh to them. You cannot approach a 15-year-old kid like you approach a 2-year-old. And equally, you cannot approach a 20-year-old relationship like you would one that's in its first year. The conversations we have here are always about allowing space. Allowing space does not mean allowing people to run roughshod over your boundaries. But when you're very angry at your partner, and a lot of us women, because we're very complicit in allowing people to cross our boundaries without us saying anything, and men, you do this too. But women were very bad at this, we were told to be good, smiley, pretty little girls that said nothing and we're happy all the time. And, men still walk past me on the street when I've got my misery face on because I'm in my misery head and go, smile doesn't cost anything. Oh, piss off. Like, please, right? If I want to be in my misery, that's my choice. I suggest you don't join me here, right? Don't join me in my darkness. And certainly, if your partner is in their darkness, don't join them there either. And if you're in your darkness, don't pull the other one down. Don't beat them up with it. And don't allow them to beat you up either, in any sense. Sometimes the memory that we have and the anger that we carry into our relationships or into the future of our relationships is actually towards ourselves, because we haven't spoken out, because we haven't been authentic. So many couples I see that are where one of them is sick, both of them are sick, very sick. Chronic disease, funnily enough, in both of them. And chronic disease is one of those things that's like dominoes. It stacks on top of itself. You don't just get diabetes, you get diabetes and high blood pressure and arthritis, and like you get a stack. There's always a stack. And always stomach disorder, because these things start in the stomach. Why? Because this is where all our emotions are churning around, eating holes in us. So you want your stomach to repair? You have to move into the light. And the light isn't repressing all your emotions, but it's also not wallowing in all of them either. And it's definitely not throwing them on each other as if the other is responsible for your health. Sadhguru always says it, and I love that saying. Anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And so many people are doing this in their relationships. So the question becomes then, how do we get out of this shitty cycle? Because it becomes a cycle. We become habitually into it, and we complain to our friends, and our friends get on the sympathy level and they double up that negative energy, and it becomes this sort of shitstorm of crap and darkness. And as our friends align with us like that, you know what they're doing, and they mean well. We don't mean bad when we do that, and I've done it a million times. We are in our sympathy stepping down into the darkness with each other and wallowing around in the mud. When your friend comes to you with these complaints, reflect back to them a perspective that isn't sympathy, that is reflecting the other side of the story potentially you're not hearing, without gaslighting them. What can you do? Ask them, what can they do to change this situation? How can they bring positivity to this? What is it that they're not taking responsibility for here that they could, and then they could be empowered to change it? I don't want to see couples making each other sick. I don't want to see friends making each other sick. And that's what it is, to sympathize with your friend, to get down in the dirt with them and roll around and have a good, complain fest. We are making each other sicker. We are encouraging this stomach to churn and gurgle and eat away at itself, so that we get leaky gut and IBS and Crohn's and colitis and all these things that come to kill us. And then we get autoimmune diseases and chronic diseases, potentially both is one and the same thing in most cases. And then we wonder why we're sick. And it's like, oh, it's a disease that got us. It's not a disease that got you. You got you. You are the disease. And you can be the medicine. Medicine is medication. That's the other way we get out. You sit down every morning and you sit there until your head, who cares if you're late for work? Take your toxic shit out into society. Spread it around. No thanks. I've done that so much of my life and I'm sick of myself. So I sit down every day, every night, come hell or high water. I sit down and I do the practice. There are no excuses for me anymore, and there should be none for you. If you really want to change your life, you do the practice. 5 minutes, sit, breathe, relax. Oh, I've got to do this. So I've got to sit down. It'll wait. That's a never-ending list of to-dos. I don't have time. No, you don't have time to not meditate. If you want a better life, if you want a better relationship, you need to sit down and see the shitstorm that is going on up here and understand that the thoughts that are happening and this churning monkey in your head, you've got to see it so that you don't let that loose on everybody else and on your own life. And especially on the person you're meant to love the most. So when your friends come to you, don't sympathize. Get practical. Reflect back to them. Be the reflector. When you realize that everything around you is angry and messed up and miserable and not the way you want it, you should be sitting down more. When you're so busy and stressed out that everything is in chaos, you should be sitting down and meditating more. You should be tuning into yourself more. Meditation is as good, if not better, than sleep. If I will sit up to 1, 2, 3 in the morning if I have to train that monkey mind, so it does not run my show. This is an invitation. Stop being a beggar in your life. Be the creator. To whoever's watching right now, thank you. Come again. Please like and subscribe. And by all means, comment, start a conversation. For any of you who found this too hard-hitting, maybe this invitation's not for you. But I hope it is. Erin Zen Warrior signing out.